everyone. Welcome to an episode of Rooted in the Ozarks here at Tricycle Farms. My name is Heather Artripe from Ozark Natural Foods, and we're here with Fayetteville Public Access. So today we're going to be doing a shiitake recipe. This is more on the Asian side. So we're going to use some bok choy. We're also going to use a few pantry staples, make a nice marinade, and this comes together super quickly. So our shiitakes, our main star of the show. We've got them right here. Now I've already taken the bottom part off of it, or the stem, and those are a little bit too woody, a little bit too fibrous to eat, but they make a wonderful stock. So I've actually got the stems for these in my freezer. I'm gonna make a stock with those. So I take a damp paper towel or a damp cloth and just go over the caps. Your mushrooms are gonna be super porous, so we don't wanna just submerge them down in water to clean them because they're just gonna soak up all of that water. So just a damp paper towel and you're good to go. A good way to store them, if you've got, a bunch of them, is just in a brown paper bag. Just put those in there, put a paper towel on top, and leave the bag open. They should last you for a week or so that way. So let's go ahead, get started with our dish. So first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna get our marinade ready. We're gonna slice up our mushrooms, let them marinate in that for a little bit. So we're gonna take some green onions. We've got some beautiful local ones here. And we want a cup of these. So I'm gonna take just a couple here, and we're gonna do the white part, or this part down here. We're also gonna do the green part as well. So let's just do right there. What I like to do too, especially ones that still have the roots down here on the bottom, is leave a little bit of space here. You can actually take these, stick them in a little jar of water, and then in about a week, the tops are gonna regrow. And that happens several times. It's a nice, fun experiment to do with your kids, and you get more green onions out of it. So I'm gonna set these to the side because I'm actually gonna do that. And now we're gonna take our green onions, and we wanna dice these on the smaller side. So we're just gonna we're gonna do our claw shape here with our hand to hold on to them. Hold on to our knife and just chop straight down. We've got those. We'll go ahead, put them in our cup here. So about a bunch of green onions is gonna give you a cup. Unless you've got the giant ones that are beginning to pop up around town, those you'll probably only need a couple. Okay, so we've got a cup here. We've got our bowl. We want to make sure our bowl is big enough that once we get our mushrooms added into it, everything's gonna fit. All right, so we've got our green onions. Next thing we want to do is we're gonna do a little bit of fresh garlic, a little bit of fresh ginger. If you don't have fresh garlic or fresh ginger, what you can do is just use the powdered kind. For this, I would do, say, a half a teaspoon of garlic granules or garlic powder, and then probably about a half a teaspoon of powdered ginger. You can always add more. We're gonna taste this before we add our mushrooms in and see if it needs to be adjusted in any way. Always a little bit easier to add more than to take away. All right, so we're gonna do our garlic first. So what I'm doing first is just giving all of our garlic cloves a rough slice just to get them broken down. Now what we wanna do, we're gonna take our knife, we're gonna do our middle finger underneath of the neck here of the knife, right under there, and then these two fingers here are actually gonna go on top of the blade. That's gonna give you more control over the knife. You're less likely to cut yourself, and you're also gonna get a better cut on whatever you're cutting. So we're gonna take this, our other hand is gonna go on top, away from the end, and we're just going to go over our garlic a couple of times just to break it down. Now we're gonna add this in with our green onions. Next up, some fresh ginger. Let's see here. We're actually going to use this one here. I also like to keep my ginger pieces, keep those for a broth too. They're super yummy. Just throw those in the freezer with the rest of your scraps. And then a great way to peel your ginger is to take a spoon. Now we've got some of the edges off here, so we've got a pretty smooth scape here. So we're just going to take our spoon, curve side up, and we're just going to go straight underneath of that skin, and that's going to peel it off. We don't have to worry about, you know, getting a knife in all these little small places. All right, so we've got that peeled. We've got a couple little pieces there left. That's totally fine. I'm just going to take our knife and we're going to go ahead and mince up our fresh garlic. If you have a microplane, of course you can grate it, but if not, we'll just go ahead and dice it up. I like bigger pieces of ginger in mine anyway, so I prefer to dice mine with a knife. Sort of the same motion as we did with our garlic. All right, and with the garlic and green onions. All right, so for the rest of our marinade ingredients, we are going to add 3 tablespoons of soy sauce or tamari. We're going to do 1 tablespoon of olive oil. We're going to do a teaspoon of apple cider vinegar or any other type of vinegar that you have. This is just going to give it a little bit sharp flavor and sort of brighten everything up. So 1 teaspoon there. We're going to add in 2 teaspoons of cornstarch. This is going to thicken it up a little bit so everything will coat nicely at the very end. Do a teaspoon of just regular sugar. You could also use honey or any sweetener of choice. And then last but not least, this is optional, but one of my favorite ingredients, which is toasted sesame oil. You don't need a lot. We're gonna do a teaspoon. It's just gonna add a nice, dark, nutty flavor to this. I absolutely love it. All right. So now we're gonna take a spoon. We're gonna stir this together. And as you can see, it's not super liquidy. Again, we don't wanna just drown our mushrooms in it, but we do want it to be enough to give it some good flavor. All right, so down here, we can get a little bit of that liquid. Let's go ahead and give it a try. Perfect, oh my goodness, I could just eat that right out of the bowl. All right, let's get our mushrooms in with our sauce here. So, we've got a pound of shiitake caps here. And I'm gonna just bring a few of them out. And now we're gonna slice these into thirds. Again, we don't want them to be too small where they disappear, but we want them to be small enough that they can really soak in all of these yummy flavors. All right, we've got all of our mushrooms in here. You could stir it with a spoon. I prefer to use my hands. And we just want to go around and incorporate our marinade mixture, our green onions, our garlic, everything down there. All right, so we've got our mushrooms here. We've got them all nice and coated. We're gonna set those aside, let those marinate for about 10 to 15 minutes. We've got our mushrooms marinating here, looking beautiful, smelling awesome. Now we're gonna work on our bok choy. So you can do this recipe using baby bok choy or regular. I could just find regular right now, so that works fine. It's just not gonna be as sweet as your baby bok choy, but it's still delicious, so we're gonna use it. What I'm gonna do, cut those little ends off there. So I've already taken this off. It sort of comes kind of like a Napa cabbage would. So I took those off, washed them really well. And now I'm just gonna take those little ends and just sort of trim those down. So what we wanna do with our bok choy is we're gonna cut it, especially down here where those stems are a little bit thicker, we're gonna cut those about 1/2 inch. Once we start getting up here where it's a little bit thinner and we're getting into our greens, we're gonna cut those about 1 inch thick. All right, we've got all of our bok choy diced up here. We're gonna set that to the side. Now we're gonna cook our mushrooms. They've been setting and they're ready to go. So we're gonna turn on our skillet here. We're gonna add a couple of tablespoons of olive oil or cooking oil. We're gonna let that heat up. We're gonna do our mushrooms, but we're gonna do them about a batch at a time. That way we don't overcrowd the pan. They can get a nice good cook on them, and then we'll do the other half. All right, so we've got our skillet preheating here. I've added a mushroom in there so I can be listening for it. It's starting to sizzle, so we're good. We're gonna go ahead, we're gonna do half of our mushrooms. Oh, beautiful sound. Now we want to let our mushrooms cook for about 3 to 4 minutes. We'll take them out, we'll put them in another bowl, we'll add the rest, let those cook, and then we'll get to cooking our bok choy. All right, so this is what we're looking for here. They've reduced down in size a little bit, not a whole lot. We're just gonna add that all in. All right, so last thing we're gonna add in is our bok choy. Add in 1 more tablespoon of oil, so 5 altogether. Now we're gonna add in our bok choy. And we've still got a little bit of that marinade left in there, and that's just going to infuse even more into our bok choy. I'm actually gonna go ahead and place a lid on it to help sort of steam that down. We'll let that cook for a couple minutes, then we'll give it a good stir. All right, let's take this off. Stir it around a bit. So our greens are cooking down nicely. I'm gonna add in just a splash of tamari just to help flavor them and also give it a little bit liquid. Add the lid on for about a minute or two more. We'll add our mushrooms in and then we'll be good. All right, so as you can see, our greens are beautiful and dark green. We're gonna take our mushrooms, add those right back in. Toss this all together. And we just want to keep stirring these, keep tossing it, make sure, there's not any liquid anywhere. It should all just sort of be in and around all of our delicious veggies in here. All right, so our veggies are all done. They look absolutely gorgeous. It made a huge amount. So I'm gonna give it a try. Got some mushroom here. Got our bok choy stem, some of the greens. So good. You've got the ginger, it really brings out the flavor of that bok choy. Those two go together so well. The mushrooms still have a little bit of bite to them. They're nice and chewy, but they're also so flavorful with everything we added in there. I hope you guys enjoy this recipe. Thanks for joining us here at Rooted in the Ozarks. My name is Heather Artripe with Ozark Natural Foods. Again, we're here at Tricycle Farms with Fayetteville Public Access. Thank you all so much, and we'll be back with another recipe. See y'all soon.